If you make it to 65, congratulations. Or if you're past 65, definitely congratulations. You're probably going to live to 82 or 83. Those are the stats. Social Security and the Census Bureau gives us those. So the question is, how conservatively should you be invested? Maybe long before you hit 65. And how is your portfolio allocated such that you can live with the volatility? That's some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Welcome to today's video. Walter alongside Janine Theus. Janine, at what age are you supposed to become a conservative investor? Is it when you hit 65? Is it later on or before that time frame? That's what we're going to hope to answer by the end of today's video. But first of all, what goes into that equation determining when we should kind of make that transition into a conservative investor?
Well, I think the big question for a lot of people is, what is the definition of a conservative investor?
Okay, let's start there. Great point.
Because, it really does come down to, do you understand the volatility of the market? And what market are we talking about? Because everybody focuses on the Dow or the S&P 5 because that's what they know. So I'll have clients say, well, this portfolio is not doing as well as the S&P 5. I said, well, guess what? The S&P 5 is by design in your return. It's in your portfolio, but the whole portfolio is not the S&P 5 because what? It's volatile. So we're talking about a roller coaster, the sine wave for you engineers. How big a loop do you want to have to make over time? Can you stomach that? So for some people, they're conservative from the get-go, starting in their 30s and 40s.
Because they never get on the roller coaster.
Right. Typically you'll say to people, okay, do you want to be on the anaconda? Because if you're in your 30s or 40s, maybe early 50s, the anaconda is okay. You have time to recover a bad market. Because guess what? A bad market, a negative market's going to happen about every 3 to 4 years anyway. So when we build portfolios, we use the research to build the portfolio so that we are mitigating risk, using several factors that the research shows work to do that. If you're 65 or you're 60 and you're close to retirement, can you handle the volatility in the marketplace? So I always have to remind people there is a risk meter that we use and we get people to sign it that says, I'm committed to this realistic expectation of return based on how my portfolio is designed, so that you don't have people comparing apples and oranges all the time, because they do. People forget. And then they're comparing, the S&P 5 return or do you realize in 2023 that the NASDAQ did 42%? Most people don't realize that.
No, sure.
But it's in a portfolio if it's done properly. It's just that you don't want it just to be in the NASDAQ or, just in the S&P 5 because it's pretty volatile. So, if I'm in retirement, close to retirement, and I'm taking distributions especially, I don't want that to happen. So being a conservative investor means what to you? It could mean that you're in a 60-40 portfolio. It could mean a 50-50. It could mean a 40-60. It depends on what else is going on in your life. What's your Social Security income, going to be? Do you have any guaranteed income, like a pension? Okay. So it's structuring all this together so that people then can live with market volatility.
Yeah. How much
stressing.
They can stomach. Yeah.
Yeah.
When my mom and I used to go to the roller coaster park back when I was younger, she started off for a few years, she'd ride the hurler with me every year. But by the end of, a couple of years later, she was wanting to be on the Scooby-Doo ride. So,
yes.
we sort of made that transition from the hurler to the Scooby-Doo ride with her over the years. And I feel like that's a lot of that's exactly how it is for folks who are maybe kind of on the hurler their whole working career. And then at some point they know they're supposed to get on the Scooby-Doo ride. They just don't know when and how to do it.
Right. Because especially when you get close to being in retirement and taking income from a portfolio, this is like magic for a lot of people, because how do I do that? And then how do I take income from a portfolio where the portfolio never runs out? Mm-hmm. That can be done. There are some factors that need to be considered and revisited, at least annually, if not semi-annually. your expenses, et cetera. But, are you rebalancing? What's the allocation? Do you rebalance back to targets? A lot of people don't, and most people will not do it on their own. What is the
You
real
bring up
risk?
a good point on rebalancing there, right? Because a lot of people think that you just have to jump off the roller coaster, like you have to flip this switch and go from aggressive to conservative. That cold turkey approach. Is
Right.
rebalancing what kind of gives people the ability to just make that a slower transition and have a middle ground for a period of time?
Yes. Yes. So rebalancing is a risk mitigator because if you're setting, targets for your portfolio for the allocation, then you're rebalancing when you get beyond those thresholds for different asset classes, et cetera. And so you're rebalancing back to targets. So that helps you stay even. Now that's going to mean that if the S&P 5 does 20% this year, you're not going to get a 20% return. It'll be in the portfolio, but you're not going to get that for the portfolio because by design, we're mitigating some risk. So it's really important when you're talking about, well, what type of investor am I? Am I a moderate? Am I an aggressive? Well, what does that mean? And what's my timeline? If I'm in my 30s, going for
We're going for the hurler. We're
going for the hurler.
Right?
But you hit 50s and you're like, oh man, my arthritis is killing me. I can't get on that roller coaster anymore.
That's right.
So, you've got
to
to
woozy
really.
when I start thinking about that one. Yeah.
But it's getting people to be realistic about expectation of return.
Yeah.
Because we've got a piece that we have. I think it's in one of my books, Hans and Franz from Saturday Night Live. And it's basically the different portfolios. And okay, if I have a more moderate risk portfolio, I can probably outlast the other guy because I'm not trying to kill myself to chase that return.
Right.
So, so there's some, very interesting examples we can give to clients that show, okay, this is how this works.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, good breakdown. So consider your risk, your investment horizon, and what rebalancing can do to make the process smoother. Those are some of the things that might lead you to become a conservative investor, or at least narrow down on that time frame. I don't want to leave the viewers disappointed today, Janine. So we said, at what age are you supposed to become a conservative investor? So what age? Can you pinpoint one, or it really does just depend?
It does depend on the person's, a lot of people who, when they came to work with me, would have said, oh, I'm more aggressive. And then when we actually went through some exercises, they're like, you know what, I'm really not that aggressive. And that, of course, as they've gotten older, then they start backing off to a little more conservative, balanced, moderate investor. And they're okay with that. I think once you understand how the market works, and you say, okay, because I've had older people say, I want to be aggressive. Okay, so how does that fit with everything else you're doing? Because I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but let's have a conversation about what does that mean so that you have a realistic expectation of return.
Okay.
So
we can't narrow down an exact age of when you're supposed to become a conservative investor, but how about we say the closer you get to retirement, the more you need to be asking the question. And
exactly.
investigating
That's perfect.
The question.
That'll
perfect.
Help
you out. All right.
Yeah.
I wanted to give the listeners and the viewers at least a little something to hold on to today. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, some people will say, because this is a question that gets asked all the time, is, what's your timeline? Well, guess what? Your timeline extends until the day you expire.
Right.
Because you're going to need the money.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to take that into consideration when you're developing portfolios.
Very good. Well, if you have not asked yourself or your advisor or a loved one or somebody, whoever's managing your finances, if you haven't explored that question of, is it time for me to get more conservative with my investments? If you need to really even figure out what that means beyond just what we've talked about on today's show, definitely reach out and talk to Janine about that. You can reach her at theuswealthadvisors.com for a complimentary review. That's theuswealthadvisors.com, or give her a call at 443-718-6300. 8311. Janine's the CEO and founder of Theus Wealth Advisors, more than 20 years of experience as a financial planner, as well as 20 plus years as a naval intelligence officer in a former life. And she's a great resource to turn to with any financial and retirement planning questions. Thanks, Janine, and we'll look forward to talking to you on the next video.
Thanks, Walt. See you later.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.